Well, thank you for doing it, first of all. I'm glad that we finally found ourselves here.
Absolutely,
Uh,
my pleasure.
First of all, I would like to talk about like because I mean you're gonna be at the JazzFestBrno festival soon. Actually, like in a month, I think, if I'm correct, on the 29th of November. So the
Oh,
thing is,
I think it might be actually the 24th of November. Uh,
maybe 24th. I don't remember
yeah.
now, but
Just so no one comes there 5 days later.
of course. Well, yeah, for our visitors and for our audience, please check the date of the concert. Don't take it for granted. But I mean, I just wanted to talk to you about, like, first of all, like, introduce the project maybe a bit, because I mean, the way I imagine it is that you're gonna play music from your last album, which was Plot Armor, right?
Well, I'm doing a combination of things. This is kind of a special project. Sometimes it's incorrectly listed as the name of the group being Plot Armor. We'll be doing some music off of Plot Armor, but a lot of music of Tree Falls, the album before that, and then specifically one thing that I'm doing with this group because it's kind of a special group that has Becca Stevens in it. So I'm revisiting a lot of the music that we did on Daylight at Midnight, which was a really fun album to record that featured Becca Stevens throughout, and it's I believe the 15-year anniversary of when that album was released. So it's an exciting chance to kind of do a combination of music. It's a really special group. Having Becca in it, given everyone's schedules, it can be very challenging to have everyone all together. But we'll be playing some of Becca's music as well, and all of that. So it's kind of a combination. The group itself, outside of that, is really special. Zach Grooves is on drums, who's an incredibly talented young drummer. Who I've now toured with a bit, and I love what he brings to this particular music. Both in my group, and then also I've played with him with Lisa Fisher and some other people, and he's just a phenomenal talent on drums. Jonathan Marin on bass, who he's one of my favorite electric bassists alive, and just a super fun, inventive, unique bassist. Ray McNeil is playing keyboards. One of the things that I like to do in my group is have a separate keyboard player, which frees me up a lot to just kind of focus on the piano, which is kind of my main comfort zone. And he's a wizard with just all sorts of textures and sounds. And a lot of my music, has multiple keyboard parts that are written for it. So he's a big component to that. And then also Marta Bagratuni on cello, who's my favorite cello player, and she just instantly fits this group so well, and I'm very excited to be playing with her also because she's my wife, and it's a real blessing to be able to actually get to make music where I don't have to compromise musically to make that happen. I've been kind of jealous of my friends like Becca Stevens and Nate Tram, or Gretchen Parlato and Mark Juliana, and people who are couples, that have a chance to play together. And the only way, in my mind, that can really work is if it can happen at a high level where the music doesn't have to compromise for that, And what Marta's really special at is, there's so many elements to my music that, especially on my albums and recordings, there's orchestral elements, there's strings, there's all of that. I read a lot of symphonic music and things, and so I've kind of tried to put some of that texture within some of the recorded work. And what Marta brings to the group is an ability to kind of insert a lot of that texture in there. And she's she's a really unique cellist. She's a classical virtuosic cellist, but also has an incredible ear for how to just fit into a group. And I tried it out earlier this year in a very similar ensemble to kind of get a feel for what this group could be on this Europe tour. and we were just kind of all blown away. It worked really really easily, and so I'm massively excited about that. So we'll definitely be doing some music from the last two albums for sure, but we're also going to do some brand new music in addition that would be on the next album, which I'm just slowly starting to work on, and I don't think I. My guess is maybe the next album will be released in late 2027, if I had to guess, is kind of what I'm shooting for, because it's another kind of fairly ambitious project with a lot of parts, similar to Plot Armor and Tree Falls. So yeah, we're kind of doing a little bit of past, present, and future on this gig. So and I'm excited to be in Brno because I've never been there. The times that I've played in Czech Republic have usually been I believe just in Prague. So, the chance to see a few places outside of that will be really, really cool. And also at that point in the tour, those are the two shows in the Czech Republic are the last two shows of this tour. So I know the music will be in a really nice, comfortable place, and I'll be excited to share that.
Amazing. So no one wants to miss it. Who misses? It's like the biggest fault of their life.
Yeah, exactly. They'll regret it for at least probably another year or something,
Yeah,
Then I got to
exactly.
come back.
But also I wanted to go a bit back to like it's interesting to say that, like, because talking to some of my musician friends, we kind of talked about uh that some people don't want to have like their other like halves, or like their spouses, wives, husbands, etc., involved in their projects, because they kind of fear that, that if anything happens in between, and that like the whole tension just like gets instantly like put throughout, the whole band. So it's interesting to also see this kind of like the other point of view from your side, which is like, yes, let's do it, let's go for it. Like I guess there's like no other thoughts in your head about this, right? Or did you
Yeah,
have
I
you ever
mean,
like
I think it's very it's a very unique situation. Every relationship is different, and then every band dynamic is different. And Marta also happens to be a good friend to all of these people in the band, and we all just love hanging out together and stuff. And so I think there's a way that I'm really really lucky that this works really naturally, because it's something that you just wouldn't want to force. There's plenty of examples throughout time and experiences that I've had in situations where someone has their significant other in the band just because of that, and it's exactly what you're saying, where there's either some tension, or sometimes the music has to compromise a little bit to accommodate that combination. And I feel like I won the lottery. Like I just feel really lucky with how easy this works, and I'm excited to kind of have the first time. We've done a lot of different shows together, but this is the first time having her as part of this band touring. Is really excited. I mean, my whole band independently, I got texts from everyone who they were celebrating this, because they were waiting for this to finally happen, and they're excited because she's so incredible. So there's moments when we did. The first time I did a show with her in the group, it was earlier this year, the Jazz Gallery in New York, and Kendrick Scott was on drums, and I think I've probably played well over a couple thousand shows with Kendrick over the years in different situations, and he just brought me aside, and he was like that's she's astonishing. He's like, you have to keep her in the group. You have to use this. You have to, it's a unique situation. So it's really satisfying for me to be able to hear that feedback from my closest collaborators and bandmates. And yeah, and we get along great. So I'm really lucky there too. So yeah, I think, if we didn't have a good relationship and we were just fighting all the time, then I'd probably be like,
yeah,
yeah, maybe this one doesn't need cello. So,
of course. I
but
see.
I got really lucky. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. That's good to hear. But also, like, going a bit back to what you said, like, I'm kind of curious, like, because you said that you also use another pianist in your band, or like a keyboard player. So, I mean, does it mean that you yourself don't like playing keyboards, or is it just like a coincidence that like you don't like to do it in this project, maybe, or
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's one of the things that I really enjoy the most about with my own group is being able to do that because there's not too many other piano-led groups where there's an extra keyboard player. And for me, all of those things are partially correct, I would say. I've never grown up really loving playing keyboards. It's just not something that I consider myself always just a piano player, and then sometimes Rhodes or Wurlitzer or a few sounds. I used to play in Terrence Blanchard's E Collective, and he was really patient with me the first couple of gigs that I did in that group. I was subbing for Fabian Almazan, who's a great piano player and keyboardist, and he had all of these keyboards that would be at every gig, and they were still on the back line. So every show I would be like surrounded by all these other keyboards, and we did something like 3 shows, and I just wouldn't touch them once. And then Terrence came over to me and he was like, "Hey man, just so you know, the E kind of stands for electronic in E Collective." So he's like, just in case if you feel like trying some things out, like have at it and stuff. And he was really patient with me. And so as a result of that, too, I kind of got to know some different sounds that I liked and started to get my feet wet more with, playing around with keyboards and synthesizers. I'm actually doing a week of shows next week at the Blue Note in New York with Corey Wong, who's a incredible rhythm guitarist and band leader. And there's a second keyboard player on that, and I'm playing keyboards on that as well, but I'm just playing kind of Rhodes and Wurlitzer, and the other keyboardist is playing synth and organ and some of those things that a little bit less my world, and so I like to, I have tremendous respect for people who know, the history of the sounds you can get on an organ or the history of synth sounds, and because I think the history is really important, knowing the context where certain sounds fit into all of that. And for me, I kind of put all my time and energy into just piano, trying to play that instrument as well as I can. And so for me, it kind of frees me up to when someone else is who's already kind of their field of expertise is in synth or organ or just keyboards in general. I love that because, and especially Reggie McNeil is a really special, incredible musician. He just has a way, voicings that he plays, the intros that he'll do, his overall vibe and energy is contagious. Like it just, we all kind of feed off of his energy. And for me, it makes me relax. And then I'm in my comfort zone because where I feel the most comfortable as a musician is just me and the piano, where I like getting all sorts of sounds and textures out of just that instrument. Whereas, when I'm put in a situation where I'm playing keyboards, I can get by, but I don't know. I just, it feels... I feel the most myself when I'm just playing piano, and so it's a real, luxury to be able to have an additional keyboard player. I kind of use him similarly to how maybe other piano players would use a guitarist in their group, and the idea of having an extra keyboardist in the band kind of came about from situations where I was used to having Charles Altura in the band or Julian Lage, just different guitar players like that. And when they wouldn't be available, then I started using Maya Kromfeld, who's a really great keyboard player originally from the Bay Area, and now she lives in North Carolina. And she is she's a phenomenal musician, and I remember never having so much fun as the gigs when Maya would be playing keyboards. And I can, the other cool part about that is, as much time and experience that I have with piano and piano based instruments, Maya would still do some chords that would surprise me, and so I'm always getting these harmonic surprises and just cool moments like that gave me so many ideas. Like my favorite musicians to play with are musicians who they do something surprising and inventive, and then it gives me a bunch of ideas. Because sometimes, if it's just the piano or something, then it's like, okay, well, a lot of those harmonic ideas have to come from me. So I a lot of times I love it when, there's a bassist like Jonathan Marin who just he'll just have some of the most surprising, incredible harmonic ideas that feeds information to me. And with Reggie, the way that he goes about playing keyboards on this gig is it's really special, and it allows me to kind of relax and be in my comfort zone. There's the equivalent, I think, is I've played a lot over the years with Eric Harland, who's a great drummer, and gigs that I've done with him where he has Kato Ogawa, a great percussionist that's in Snarky Puppy, sometimes would play in Eric's group, and having a percussionist would free him up to just be a drummer on the drum set, And so I think it's very similar in terms of how that affects me as a piano player. And there's certain songs of mine, especially on the last two records, on Tree Falls and on Plot Armor, there's songs like Bucket of F's or Sparky or a lot of other tunes like that I wrote specific, separate two-handed keyboard parts, so to actually play some of those tunes myself, even if I had a Rhodes or a Nord next to the piano, it'd be impossible to get the full tune, to be able to play the full tune how it was written, because there's certain things that are like really big chords and all of that I need two hands for, these big stacks, or very specific unison parts, and I kind of need someone else, another human being, to do that while I'm playing piano part that's separate from that and all that. So, it's a real joy to be able to travel in a 6-person group. The last Europe tour that I did with my group last year was a couple weeks, and I had 7 people in it. And this is the same rhythm section. So Reggie McNeil, Jonathan Marin, and Zach Groove. So we have some now collective touring experience together. That tour included Casey Abrams on vocals, Gretchen Parlato on vocals, and Ben Wendell on sax. And since we don't have Ben Wendell on this tour, it's cool to see how cello can take some of that textural role and kind of become the orchestra in the middle of what's going on. And I think there's so much about it that we're going to find out on the first gig, just how it all locks in together and all of that. But I couldn't be more excited. And I'm sending out these couple of days, actually, I'm sending out music to the band, a couple new tunes, some new songs of Becca's, too, that we're going to try out. And Becca has an amazing new project out called Maple to Paper. It's a solo album. And so we're going to do a song from that and some songs from Becca's other projects, too, that, Becca's one of my favorite people that I've ever collaborated with over the years. We've been collaborating for coming up on 2 decades of playing together, and it's just been special to see all of the things that she's able to do with her music. And every time we get together, it's just immensely special. And there's a real musical synergy that we've always had, and so I'm excited to. I haven't played with Becca in Europe since probably 2010 was the last tour that I did with Becca in Europe. 2010 or 2011, one of those. And so it's just a real special reunion, and I hope a lot of people will come out and hang out with us and feel all of the joy that we're having.
Yeah, that's. I mean, hopefully they will, because I mean, it's good that you kind of transitioned here to this point, because this is kind of where I also wanted to get to, which is your collaboration with Becca. So, I mean, you said it yourself, like that for you, it's one of the best, if not the best, musical collaboration, right? So, I mean, how did that came to be? Because now, if I'm not wrong, you're both on Ground Up music, right? So you're on the
Right.
same label, right?
Yeah, Plot Armor was on Ground Up. I believe Becca's still on Ground Up, unless I'm mistaken. But yeah, I met Becca in, I think, 2007. I reached out to her 2006 or 2007, and I reached out to her on MySpace, if you could believe that.
Oh, those times.
Oh yeah, I missed a lot about MySpace, actually, but what I missed the most about MySpace is, to get information about someone, you had to go to their page. You had to care enough about them to independently go to that page. We didn't have feed. We didn't have just a bunch of stuff that's given to us and stuff, and we all eat out of the same feed and all of that. But and you could rank your friends. I always like that. I want to bring that back. There's some friends I want to move up and down some notches. But yeah, I sent a message to Becca on MySpace, and I asked her, hey, I'm Taylor. I'm a piano player. Would you, any chance, I could meet with you, and I got some ideas of some songs for you to sing that I think it'd be really cool. I also would love you to meet my good friend Gretchen Parlato, and I think there's some stuff that the three of us can do together. And so I went out to coffee with Becca Stevens and Gretchen Parlato. They had never met each other before, so it was an exciting thing that happened. Like almost, yeah, approaching two decades ago. But then they hit it off immediately, and the three of us became incredibly close friends, and have worked together ever since. I was already at that point working with Gretchen Parlato in her band and a few other projects and all that. But that was the first kind of union of the three of us. And then with Becca, it just kind of it turned into like a real cool independent collaboration too, where we started writing some songs together. There was some songs that we still play, and that there's a lot of tons of different like college choirs have done arrangements of some of these tunes, like Magnolia and Midnight Afternoon, and a lot of these tunes. Midnight Afternoon was a song that I wrote, and I was on the train to the first gig I ever did with Becca, and I handed it to her on the train, and I was like, you hear any lyrics to this? And she sat down on the train. In about 10 minutes, she handed the paper back to me, and she's like, there's the lyrics. And there's things that she's done that on a lyrical perspective that I think she's just a super genius. Magnolia is a tune that I recorded with her for the album Daylight at Midnight, and we recorded it under a different name. We recorded it as The Investment, and the lyrics of that song were based on a Robert Frost poem called The Investment. And we recorded it. I was really happy with it, proud of it. And then right before we released the album, this is when I was still on Concord, Universal, and they said that the Robert Frost estate reached out and said that you can't use his words as music. And in my opinion, like, if I'm dead, use whatever you want of my music, take it and run with it, do a new arrangement. Like, I'm dead. What do I care? And, but they're very protective over his creations. And, so I was I was depressed. I was like, oh man, I don't want to like lose this song. And Becca was like, wait a minute, let me write new lyrics to this. So we went back into the studio. She sat on the ground with pen and paper for 1 hour, and she went in and re-recorded new lyrics to this tune, which became Magnolia. And Magnolia is a really special tune to me because she also wrote in things into the lyrics that alluded to the Robert Frost estate situation that we went to. Buds forming, newly formed buds, frost white in winter, waiting for the spring, or I'm forgetting the lyrics to my own tune. But there's moments like that she's so brilliant on a lyrical level that I've seen her just completely do some nearly impossible things like that. And as a vocalist, the clarity in her voice, she's one of the people that, when I go into when I've gone in to record the last couple of albums, and she's been on the last 3 albums, anyone where you go in, even instrumentalists, and if you have to do any pitch correction or that sort of a thing, Becca's someone where we sit there, me and my co-producer, Josh Junta, and we're like, yeah, we don't have to do anything to this. She's just, always, her voice is so perfect. And so she's a real special, unique musician. And as a composer too, she writes things that have a combination of, not only are they emotional and compelling and structurally interesting, but they have such a sense of clarity to them, and also asymmetry, which I'm very personally drawn to asymmetry. I like when things aren't all 100% even and exact, and all of that. So her music itself, I've always been drawn to ever since her album T by C, which is an early on, very early album of hers, and I was immediately hooked on her own music. I think she was initially surprised at first when I hit her up many years ago, because she was like, "How did you hear my music?" Was it she was singing in something called the Bjorkestra, which was
Yeah, yeah.
a band in New York that plays arrangements of Bjork tunes. And I
Mhm.
was like, no, I heard your record. That's what I became when I became a fan. So, it's interesting looking back the domino effect of I still remember my friend Garrett Smith was the one who said, "Hey, have you ever heard Becca Stevens?" And so kind of the chain of sometimes when word of mouth, people get
Yeah.
recommended to people. People are like, "Hey, check this out." I think one of the cool things in the jazz world is the culture of listening socially. So when you're listening to music with good friends, and you're getting turned on to some interesting music that you haven't heard before, I think that's a real gift. And it can
Mhm.
lead to some really cool things, and certainly it can lead to collaborations and all of that. So long history with Becca. She's also one of my dear, dear, like, one of my absolute best friends in the world. And so it's a beautiful thing. And
Mhm.
that's also, I think I only like to tour with people that I get along with, like
Of
there's
course.
just life is funny and people change and all that kind of stuff. But for someone like Becca, it's just like the second we're on the road together, it's like we're back, 15 years ago again. And
Yeah.
it's there's certain good friends that will be your friend for a lifetime, and Becca's one of those people for me. And I know that I want to be playing with her until I die. There's a lot
Mhm.
of people that I can think of, and certainly this entire band. These are all special musicians and stuff. So I want to play with them my whole life too. And the beautiful thing about and the thing that I'm maybe the most fortunate of is in my life, I get a lot of variety. So I get to play with a lot of
Mhm.
different groups. And sometimes there's groups where different people are available in different situations and all of that. And so every situation I get into is something different. I mean, even if I look at what I have coming up, it's that Blue Note week with Corey Wong. We have Joshua Redman and Kenny Garrett in the band, and Mark Lettieri, which is going to be really exciting. And then we do that tour, and then I come back to the U.S. to do some shows with a different version of my group, and then I'm back at the Blue Note with Mike League from Snarky Puppy, where he's
Mhm.
doing we're doing a few nights with two drummers, Antonio Sanchez and Kendrick Scott, and so I just feel like every time I leave the house, I get to do something different, which I'm very grateful for that, because it keeps things interesting and makes you a better musician.
Yeah.
To be able to learn a lot of different music at any given time and just keep it moving and switch things up. So it makes it more interesting.
Yeah. That kind of that makes sense. But I see that our meeting is gonna end in 10 minutes. But I would like to go back actually to what you said when you said, I almost forgot the lyrics to my song. But is it something that you, I mean, probably it is, but is it something that you as a pianist pay also a lot of attention to while playing, or like while, uh, of course, it kind of finishes the whole picture of the song, right? In like the people's, you know, people's heads. But for you also, is it only like, was it always important for you to kind of remember lyrics, or is it just with certain people?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things with me though. The lyrics to me are incredibly important to what the song is about, and the meaning of the
Mhm.
tune, the diction of the tune, how certain phrases like the word open, I'll change the voicings that I'm playing. If there's a word hold you so close to me, maybe I'll bunch my voicings together, and things like that.
Mhm.
And so sometimes there's some literal things that I can do to when there's words in a song to kind of bring out that intent or meaning. It's really important for me to go through and know the lyrics to every song that I'm going to play because the story and the emotion and all of that is so important. Now, the second thing about me is I can't memorize words or lyrics to save my life. So, I'll know what the story is and I'll know the intent, but then to be able to recite them myself, that's why I'm not the one singing, And there's some people who have an incredible memory for like the exact words of everything and all that, but I'll remember the story, I'll remember the intent, and I'll have gone through the tune initially and kind of put that intent into what I'm playing, and but then when it's actually time to sing those words, I would I'm believe me, no one would want to come to this show if I was the one singing. It's not I stick with what I know, so just the piano, but it is important to know the lyrics. And also I love writing lyrics myself. A lot of these tunes and some of the tunes we'll be playing and that we play with Becca, a lot of them I wrote the lyrics to, and it's writing lyrics can be a scary thing. It's not necessarily, I think it's easier from my perspective, it's much easier to write a song than it is to write lyrics, but I like both of those worlds, and I've kind of been fortunate to kind of learn from some of the best lyric writers over my life. So at this point, I think sometimes I've been able to create some good lyrics, but not always, And I work a lot with Lisa Fischer, who's an amazing. She's one of the best vocalists of all time, and she was also on Plot Armor. There was a song that she sings called "The Fire Within." In that tune, I made the lyrics by taking my mom's words. My mom had passed away a week before I started recording that album, and so her old writings and things I took from those to create those lyrics, because I wanted to have a song that represented my mom's words and all of that. And so I think writing lyrics can come from many different sources, and there's all sorts of ways of going about it. But Lisa would always, anytime that I've written songs for Lisa, she always makes me make a demo of it myself where I'm singing. No one will ever hear this stuff. There's maybe 3 really close friends who have been sworn to secrecy that have heard me sing, and Lisa's way too kind and forgiving of my voice, but it was good that she made me do it, because it made me feel really awkward and vulnerable to have to sing this stuff. But my voice is terrible, so it's one of those things that I'd rather write the lyrics and write the tune and just give it to someone that I trust, like Becca or Lisa or Gretchen Parlato or someone like that.
I see. But maybe you would actually be surprised that, like, if you tried it, then maybe, like, even more people would have started to come to your concerts.
Yeah, I mean that's what people have said, and I'm like, well, that's
Well,
I don't want those fans. I don't want the fans that want to hear me sing. I want the piano fans, the singing fans. Though I'll give them someone good. So,
of course.
but one of these, I wish I could sing really effortlessly. I think in my mind too, some people just are naturally born with a voice that just sounds good when they sing. Beck is one of them. Her technique and how much work she's put into it, and experience over the years and all of that. Certainly there's a lot of hard work that's there, but also she's just someone that just naturally, her voice just really, really sounds good. And I think it's people like me, for as much as I love to talk, my voice when it's actually singing, I can't stand it. But I don't know, who knows, maybe someday if I do an album where I'm singing, I'll probably use a fake name and people can discover that later. So
like Charlie Chen.
Absolutely. I've been on a couple albums on fake names, but no one knows.
Okay.
But it's always good to have a little bit of a secret other life here and there.
So for the jazz police out there listening to this podcast, you can, like, you have a task now maybe for yourself.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
Good luck, yeah. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for doing this with me. And, like, I hope that all of the people come to your concert in Brno and that they see all this amazing music that we just talked about. Are they here? That's the most important thing.
Pozor, máme tady novinku. Líbí se vám, co děláme? Pokud jo, tak nově jsme taky na Hero Hero, kde nás můžete podpořit a kam budeme časem taky přidávat exkluzivní obsah.
Takže pokud zajímá vás, co zajímá nás, neváhejte a staňte se členy už dnes.
Děkujeme za podporu.
Yeah, so good luck on your endeavors on your European tour, and thank you once again.
Thanks to you for doing this interview.
Yeah, my pleasure.